DJI's latest drone, the Mavic Mini, is pretty sweet. It's about the size of a stick of deodorant and it weighs nothing. But I don't think I would buy it. Here's why. So if you've heard anything about this drone, what you've probably heard is that it's ridiculously lightweight. It weighs 249 grams, which is just underneath the FAA regulation level where you have to register your drone. If you have a drone that's heavier than that, you have to go through this whole process where you register it with the government. With this drone, you don't have to, which is kind of nice because that's kind of one of the more annoying parts of owning a drone and legally flying it. However, in order to get this drone down to that super low weight, they had to strip away some features and functionality that I honestly really liked. One thing they didn't strip away from this drone though was DJI's awesome flying experience. This little guy is every bit as reliable and responsive in the air as all of the other Mavic drones in their lineup. There was actually a software bug because I was using a pre-release version of the app and the drone would disconnect from my phone mid-air, but it wouldn't like fall out of the sky or anything. I could still just like reconnect and it would stay right in position. So even with bugs, I could fly pretty confidently because DJI's flight software is just so reliable. One of the other things I really liked, and I'm really glad they did here, is that they gave you a physical controller instead of forcing you to use like the virtual sticks on an app, because every time a drone company makes something like that, the controls are just too mushy and imprecise to be usable and for you to fly confidently. But that's not the case with this guy. It's got physical sticks, the flying experience is super tight and responsive. Another thing that I was really impressed by was the position hold of this drone. One of the things I do when I test drones is I'll just have them hover in a stationary position until the battery runs out just to see how long they last. And in cheaper drones, you often find that they kind of drift around and scoot and you have to like control them to make sure they don't run into stuff. But this thing pretty much stayed bolted to the sky right in place, even with strong breezes and stuff. So the position hold on this drone is really, really good. Overall, I would say I'm really impressed with the handling of this thing. Like I said, it flies very, very similarly to a lot of the higher end drones in the Mavic family. It's super sporty feeling, it's pretty quick and nimble. I think that's probably partially because it's so light, like instant throttle response, really, really agile drone to be flying. And honestly, you don't really feel it getting pushed around too much in like windy conditions. It seems pretty stout and stable in the air, even when you're flying in crazy gusty areas. It's also got pretty impressive battery life. On just one battery, this thing can get 30 minutes of flight time. And I actually tested that and it is fully legit. It can stay in the air for that long. Now, speaking of battery time, another thing that I really liked is we got the Fly More combo is what they sent us to review, and it comes with this sweet little battery charger thing, which fits 3 batteries, but beyond that, it also tells you which battery is the most charged and will charge that one up first so that you can have a full battery faster than you would otherwise. The other thing, it's just so convenient because it's so small, but that can also be said of pretty much every other DJI drone that folds up. They're all pretty backpack friendly at this point, so I don't really think the tiny size is that much of an advantage for this thing. It's still not quite small enough to fit into a pocket comfortably, so you are going to have to put it in its case or in a backpack. The first thing that this drone doesn't have that previous generations did is obstacle avoidance. In drones like the Mavic Pro, the Mavic 2 Pro, and even the Spark, there were some sort of LiDAR-based or visually-based obstacle avoidance system, so the drone could recognize when there was like a tree nearby or you were about to fly into a building, and then it would tell you on the controller like, hey, you should probably stop flying because you're about to crash. The Mini doesn't have any of that, so you kind of have to be aware at all times of how close your drone is to a tree or power line or whatever it is. That's not necessarily a deal breaker, but if you're flying a drone that costs $400, you should be confident that it's not going to crash. Another thing that they took away was its auto follow function. So that was a pretty computationally intense task that some of the older drones used to do, and that required a bigger processor and more cooling hardware. But because this drone is so light, it couldn't have any of that. So you're not going to be able to follow yourself with this drone or like tap on the screen and like, follow a car or somebody on a bike. Another thing that's worth noting is the fact that the Mavic Mini also doesn't have DJI's really nice video transmission systems. Those are OcuSync and Lightbridge, which you can find in their higher end drones, but this one uses enhanced Wi-Fi. So basically what that means is it doesn't have quite as high quality of a video stream back to your controller, so you can't really transmit video from like over 2 miles away, at least in my experience. That said, that's not really that big of a deal, at least for me, because I don't really like to fly drones more than 2 miles away anyway, and this thing held up just fine at that distance just using the enhanced Wi-Fi. They also just had to cut weight by making the drone a little bit more flimsy than it was in previous generations of the Mavic, so like the arms will twist a little bit. I don't really know if that's necessarily the biggest downside though, because I've flown a lot of drones in the past that are kind of more flexible than sturdy, and that's almost a good thing when you crash them. You want them to bend a little bit instead of being super rigid. Last but not least is the camera system. So this drone only has a max resolution of 2.7K video at 30 frames per second. Now here's the thing. All of that stuff that I just talked about, you can actually find in the Mavic Air, which is DJI's slightly more upscale drone. That thing costs $800, whereas this one costs $400. So if you're looking for a good drone for $400 and don't want to spend twice that on a drone just for those features, that's a pretty good compromise to make. Like, this is still a pretty damn good drone for $400. Now, personally, I wouldn't buy this. And the reason why is because A, I just really like obstacle avoidance technology. And the other reason is if you look here on the drone's nose, you see these little nostrils? In past Mavic editions, that's where the obstacle avoidance went. So the fact that DJI built this into the drone, even though it didn't have obstacle avoidance, is a little bit puzzling. To me, what that means is DJI is probably planning a plus version of the Mavic Mini that's going to release at some point in the future that might have obstacle avoidance sensors. It'll probably cost like a couple $100 more, but honestly, I think I might wait to see what they do with this one, because I love this tiny little package. Really, the only thing it's missing is obstacle avoidance, and it might be coming in the future. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like this video, definitely don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and also just check out some of our other stuff. Also, let me know in the comments if you would buy this drone. I know I said I wouldn't, but you have your own opinion, and let me know why you would, because I'm curious if I missed anything. So let me know.